My name is Deborah Randolph. I'm a licensed clinical social worker in the state of Oklahoma. I've been licensed since 1993, 2 years after grad school. I went to the University of Central Oklahoma, completed my bachelor's degree in psychology. From there, I entered graduate school at the University of Oklahoma in the Master of Social Work program. What I can say to you about the reason I chose that degree at that time was that more insurance companies were accepting LCSWs as providers for mental health services than they were LPCs, licensed professional counselors. And at that time, the program at OU was very, very strong. Still is today. It's still a good program. I recommend a lot of people go through it if they want to work in a variety of settings. One of my internships while I was in grad school was in the Oklahoma County District Attorney's Office, where I also worked, but I shifted my responsibilities over to the sexual assault team and worked with victims of sexual assault. My regular job there at the DA's office was domestic violence counselor. And then my second internship was as a medical social worker at Southwest Medical Center, before it was Southwest Medical Center, South Community. I spent several years there. Then I worked in a back injury program doing individual and group counseling and what we call psychoeducation. Probably biopsychosocial education is how I would probably frame it better. From there, I went to work in a home health agency, managed the social work team for several years, and then I worked freelance home health for many years. Eventually, when things changed with reimbursement for home health back in 1997, I ended up getting called back into the hospital at Midwest Regional to kind of help out in the social work and case management department. And the roles had changed for social workers and case managers since I was previously in a hospital. So it was an adjustment, but I did very well with it, and eventually I was asked to become the director of that department. I did, and we implemented in the summer of 2001 probably one of the first web-based case management and social work programs in a hospital in this area. And we were totally wireless, and told my staff that you were going to hate me for 6 months, but after that you'll probably love me. They all kind of laughed and went, yeah, right. I supervised both nurses and social workers. And I got recruited by Integris Baptist Medical Center in late 2001, early 2002. And I took over the Department of Case Management and Social Work Services at Baptist Medical Center in Oklahoma City, and had a staff of 25. Most of them were women. I maybe had 1 or 2 males on staff. Had support staff of 2 to 3 people. Worked directly with the chief financial officer and two medical directors actually. And we worked on things like utilization review and length of stay on patients, discharge planning, and once again I implemented the same program I implemented at Midwest Regional. And we were also wireless at Baptist by, I want to say 2003 or 2004. and it went over extremely well at Baptist. The doctors loved the program because you could actually read what we were saying the discharge plan was. So,
do you work very much with juveniles?
I have not worked with juveniles much in my career. When I did my internship at Southwest Medical Center back in the early 90s, I worked pediatrics, and I had some adolescents there in pediatrics. But other than that, not a lot, no.
Okay. What do you think is the most difficult aspect of your job?
Helping patients that have a psychotic disorder cope with how that changes the life that they dreamed they were going to have. Coping with a psychosis of some sort is extremely difficult, especially if you have somebody with a high IQ and that I see frequently. It's really, really tough because they dreamed they were going to have a home, a family, and a career, and sometimes it's just difficult to get out of bed the next day.
What do you find about your job to be most rewarding?
It's kind of a strange thing but it'll make sense. It's when you see the light bulb go on for somebody, when you see that they have gained insight into their own behavior and how they behave in the world, and how that affects their relationships, their own reality. It's when you see them get it that is so rewarding. It's just fabulous.
Do you work more with an individual or with families?
More with individuals. I have worked extensively with elderly in my history, but I've always worked more with adults. I do see a few adolescents now and then, but most of my practice is adults and elderly folks.
Okay. Do you feel that your education made you who you are as a person better in the job, I would say?
Oh,
like getting your education, did it help you?
Oh, it made me a better person all the way around. Made me a better citizen. I have had a wonderfully, wonderfully blessed career. It's just been fabulous.
Okay. What does an average day look like for you?
An average day is probably 8 to 10 patients, Monday through Thursday, doing psychotherapy. Most days it's usually pretty good. Sometimes you have hostile clients you have to deal with, and you just deal with that.
Yeah. Do you have a memorable case that you've had to recently work on that has affected you, maybe personally? Or do you let them how do you not let them affect you personally, I would say?
I think my training working in medicine early on taught me to, when I left work, to leave it at work. Because in a medical facility, what you see is life and death. And you see how life can change in an instant. And it can be a young person, it can be an old person, it can be a middle-aged person. It could be a mother having a baby. Their lives and their dreams change because of some illness or some tragic incident. I think that being exposed to that really helped me to set boundaries and know that I can do what I can do, but I can't fix everything. And to walk away and get up and do it the next day.
Okay. Trying to think. Some of these questions are more towards juveniles. Do you have any advice for someone who's interested in this field and any surprises that they might not expect?
I would strongly encourage them to get a good education and get a variety of experience. Because that variety of experience helps you serve more people. For instance, I have domestic violence background from the DA's office. I have mental health background. I have physical health. So I tend to see patients in a more broad scope of what we call biopsychosocial perspective. But I would say, please pursue graduate school. UCO prepared me extremely well for graduate school at OU. I think that OU has a good social work program. Just know that you're not going to get all the pieces of, if you want to do psychotherapy like I do today, you're not going to always get all the mental health stuff in the Master's in Social Work. I was fortunate. I got my bachelor's in psychology from UCO and then went for my master's in social work. But UCO has an outstanding psychology department, and their sociology department is outstanding and well known as well. Those programs prepare you well, usually, for grad school. And I encourage people to go to graduate school all the time.
Where are we at?
5 minutes.
Okay. You have 5 minutes left?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Do you feel that there's a high need of social workers in society today?
Absolutely. But I think it's a different market today than it was when I started out. With budget changes and healthcare changing, there are less and less, I think, medical social workers in hospitals, which is a tragedy. It's what would be considered possibly a soft type of service. It's difficult to... It's very difficult to justify the cost of a social work staff and show how that it affects the bottom line of the hospital. So, I forgot what the question was now. Sorry.
Do you feel that there's a high need of social workers?
I think there is. I think the one thing I would say is that social workers need to believe in themselves, to value themselves, and think highly of the work that they do. When I was in graduate school at OU, it was, if you wanted to do private practice like I'm doing now, it was kind of looked down on. We're seeing a change in Oklahoma in the way DHS is operating. They need more clinical people that are trained in this area. I still think they'll always be needed in hospitals and social service agencies of any kind and in private practice, because we come to it with a different perspective.
Yeah. Do you have anything that you'd like to share with us that maybe wasn't asked, or any suggestions for us, I would say?
I would say this is a fabulous field to work in. I've worked in multiple aspects of it. That's why I loved getting the Master's in Social Work, because it opened up a variety of venues to me, and that's worth its weight in gold. Just the multiple settings that you can work in as an MSW or LCSW. I think it's a fabulous career. I've been so blessed. I strongly encourage anybody to pursue it if that's what their love is. And
so you feel it's very rewarding?
Oh,
yeah.
My life has been so blessed through my career. Words can't describe how blessed my life has been by it.
Awesome.